Hello, this is Rabbi Babich. I believe that for each of us, our Seder plans have somewhat been altered this year, and we are not going to celebrate the Seder as we would have hoped and planned. Instead of large gatherings, we will have small gatherings. Instead of celebrating with others, we may be celebrating the Seder by ourselves. This is most definitely a difficult and challenging experience, to observe the Seder in quarantine and in isolation. Hopefully, please God, it should only be a once-in-a-lifetime experience. The Rambam writes in the laws of Seder night that one should try to motivate the children to ask, why is this night different from all other nights? What if there are no children at the table to ask the question? Then one's spouse or one of the guests at the table should ask the question, says the Rambam. The Rambam continues, let's say you are all alone at your Seder, and there is no one to ask the question to you. What should you do? The Rambam says, Shoel la'atzmo. You should ask the question to yourself, why is this night different from all other nights? For years, many people have read this ruling of the Rambam, thinking that it is not really relevant. Who observes the Seder by themselves? However, this year, we have learnt that the words of the Rambam are fully relevant. We are observing the Seder by ourselves. How exactly should we approach the Seder tonight? What should be our attitude? Is there any silver lining in this most difficult of situations? Any positive way to approach our Sedarim this holiday? When you think about it, looking for a silver lining is really part of the Pesach story. On Pesach, we celebrate the great salvation our ancestors had when Hashem redeemed them from Egypt many years ago. Hashem took us out with a mighty hand. However, there is a rabbinic tradition that only a small portion of the nation was actually redeemed. The rest never made it out of Egypt. Some say only 20% of the population actually left Egypt. Others say it was even less than that. The majority of the nation never made it out of Mitzrayim, of Egypt. So one could argue that perhaps Pesach should be a sad day, not a day of celebrations. Maybe we should all be in mourning. But of course, that is not what we do. We are taught to look at the positive side of the story, the glorious side of how Hashem, God, revealed himself to the world and redeemed us from slavery. We are taught to look at the positive side of the story. So for us, who are observing the holiday, the Seder, in quarantine, what can be the silver lining? What can be a positive perspective for us this Pesach year? First, if you happen to be celebrating the Seder just with immediate family, what an incredible opportunity you have this year. Usually, we are all so distracted by all the people at the Seder that it is hard, it's challenging to focus on one's immediate family. There are aunts and uncles and cousins and guests who all require attention. This year, one can actually focus and care for their children and their family. Let's say it's just you and your spouse. When was the last time you, if ever, you observed a Seder just with your spouse? This is a real opportunity to deepen the relationship and the connection. The Lubavitcher Rabbi for decades insisted on conducting the Seder alone with his wife. They didn't have any children, and the two of them would sit year after year alone and have the Seder together. He was a man who promoted communal Sedarim all over the world, but he only wanted to celebrate the Seder alone with his wife. Let's say a person is conducting the Seder by themselves this year, which is most definitely a difficult thing to do. Is there anything positive that can come out of it? First of all, you are not truly alone. The Almighty will be sitting right beside you. He will be at your table this year. The first Pesach, after the Lubavitcher Rebbe's wife passed away, the Rebbe refused any invitations or guests. He insisted on celebrating the Seder alone with the Almighty. Who knows what the Rebbe asked of God that holy night during that most sacred of Sedarim? So if you find yourself alone with the Almighty on this Seder night, use this intimate Seder of yours to pour out your heart to Him and discuss all your hopes and fears. It is an incredible opportunity. Second, there is a benefit in life to having some alone time every once in a while. The Mishnah Brura rules that it is worthwhile to spend some alone time each and every week. During our daily lives, we are so distracted with emails and phone calls and texts and the news and the media. Who actually has time to think? Who has time to remember? Seder night is about connecting the past to the present. We don't say they left Egypt. We say we left Egypt. We fuse the past to the present. Perhaps this Seder night, we have an opportunity which we don't usually have. We have the opportunity to reminisce, to think about all the past Sedarim of our lives in which we celebrated. A Seder as a child at a parent's house or a grandparent's house. A Seder with a family, with your family at some destination. Or a warm and loving Seder experienced at someone else's home. For many people, some of the most poignant and fondest memories they have in life come from their experiences on Seder night. I know it is definitely true for me. So perhaps this year on Seder night, we have the opportunity to reminisce about the past, to use the quiet time to connect the past to the present, and to bring a smile to our faces by mentally reliving some of the fondest memories we have in life that occurred on Pesach night, on Seder night. As difficult as it may be to celebrate the Seder in isolation, there were times in Jewish history that it was far worse. At least we have the luxury and comfort to celebrate the Seder in our homes. We must remind ourselves that with God's help, next year and for years to come, our Pesach Sedarim will look very different. Pesach this year is most aligned with the original Pesach that occurred in Egypt. In Egypt, we were told, Lo seitzu ish mi Pesach beso. You must stay in your homes on Pesach night and do not leave. You must wait until the death outside passes, we were told in ancient Egypt. This year, we are also told that we must stay home and wait until the death outside passes. We are not always able to control what happens to us in life, but we are able to control how we react to these events. Let's make the most of the Pesach experience this year, despite the challenges. Please, God, may this terrible situation come to a speedy end. May all those who are ill have a complete recovery. May those who lost loved ones find comfort. And may there once again be joy for our nation and the world at large. Attached to this email is the Shabbos HaGadol sermon, which I believe you may find meaningful if you have not yet read it. Please print it before the holiday. And also attached are some insights on the Seder, which you may read and share this evening. I wish you a Chag Kosher V'Sameach, a joyous, meaningful, and safe holiday.